Welcome back to Long Island Viewpoint. I'm Ken Rosato. Children are the most vulnerable members of our society. In a dismal economy, they're at an increased risk of abuse and addictive behaviors. USA Today and Reuters are just a few of the news agencies reporting an increase in runaways, suicide, and abandonment in recent months. This according to our next guest, Steve Simpson, author of the novel Runaway, which has been endorsed by the National Runaway Switchboard and is used in many school districts. Thanks so much for being with us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
What compelled you to write this?
Well, my own personal background, of course. But what I think about Runaway is that it's not a how-to book. When I was young, and I was an abused child myself, the teacher said, I have a book about child abuse or suicide or running away. Anyone want one? I went to raise my hand. I pointed to someone else. He wants one. It's a fiction novel. It's got young romance in it. It's got comedy, tons of action. It's like any action movie they would see. So it's not threatening. Any child can read it, and if they any life background, they'll think the book is great. But the drama parts discuss all the things you just mentioned, being children of alcoholics, all different types of abuses. The characters all have these problems. So it's a nice way to very non-aggressively gateway into the conversation. Say, who do you relate to in the book? Or is this like your brother? Is this like your sister? And after the story ends, there's two articles. One's on suicide and one's on being a child of an alcoholic. And that's for both the young people and the parents. They get an idea what really goes through a young person's head who's living those situations.
So certainly a nice twist, making it fiction.
Exactly.
Sort of like, you know, if you were to have a problem, would this be interesting to you? That
Exactly,
kind of
exactly. And they went expert. And it's a fiction book. It's not threatening. But again, it gives them a chance to really get in touch with their feelings, and you can easily start the conversation as an adult or professional. And again, the adults like it because it gives an idea what's really going through my son's mind and my daughter's mind.
And adults, it might not be such a bad idea for adults to understand the challenges if they've forgotten the challenges the teens face every day, that adults, the kind of pressures they may be putting on them as well.
Even the normal challenges. Now with the economic crisis, as you just said, when there's economic crisis, alcoholism increases in parents and drug abuse increases in parents. And as a result, child abuse always increases as well. So it's gotten very unbearable for a lot of households, unfortunately, the hopelessness. And the end result is the children. It's not your 401k. The end result is going to be the child. And they've been taking, so to speak, even physically beatings and even mentally. I'll also throw out there for the healthy households, a mistake a lot of parents are making. They're discussing your economy in front of the children. They're not your peers. And they're using words like, I hope I don't lose my job, I might lose the house. You know, they're the child, you're the adult. You lose sleep. Let them have their sleep. Let them focus on their schoolwork. That's part of being, you shelter them. That's part of being an adult. I know kids are very savvy today, but try not to discuss your problems in front of them. They feel guilty automatically, even if you don't say it's their fault. If you fight with your spouse over money in front of them, they're going to feel guilty about that and internalize that guilt.
You know, it's just hearing this. My own parents talked about this, about advice for raising kids. And that's something that no matter what challenges they had, financial or otherwise, they always kept it quiet when we were growing up. My brother and I never heard about that, never did. And I look back and I know some friends who used to hear about it all the time, and I feel really badly for them because I feel like I've been very blessed. I had a great childhood coming up because I never had to deal with that.
Well, it's supposed to be that way too. You know, a child hears this the night before, a big fight over finances. Now they're in school the next day. You think they can really focus on their schoolwork?
Certainly not.
Yeah.
And what kind of reaction have you had from the book?
Great reaction because, again, because the fiction part of it.
Right.
It's very user-friendly for someone to read. And even if kids that had, I tested on children that didn't have any problems in their background, they just thought it's a great story. But again, those that live through these things, being a child of an alcoholic, any type of abuse, dysfunctional homes, they really relate to the characters because they're very realistic. Like someone said to me, is the female character that realistic, being that tough? I said, you're not in touch with a lot of teenagers today, are you? She's the epitome of a surviving teenage girl who's dealing with different problems, who's going to defend herself and those she cares about.
And what about neglect? A lot of parents think, oh, but you know, the kids are like on autopilot. Let them raise themselves. How does neglect come into this?
Big mistake. As far as neglect, you know, just because they have a cell phone doesn't mean you keep in contact with them. That's not raising a child. That's number one. And also verbal abuse is a big thing. People roll their eyes with, oh, big deal. You know, the kid gets called names. You know, I was physically and verbally abused as a child. The physical stuff healed after a while. The verbal stuff I remembered for years and years and years. My first bunch of years in school were horrible, horrible. I was a Z student, the opposite of an A student. I was a teacher's nightmare. Once I got a self-esteem, the opposite. I ended up in the National Junior Honor Society. I was made Student of the Month. And I always joke about that because they hung my picture up as a model student in the halls. And they used to say that would be a dartboard in the teacher's faculty room 2 years prior.
Wow.
Same student, self-esteem. So to give you an idea of the effects of verbal abuse, that was the difference once they had a self-esteem.
And so many parents in a school, if a child commits suicide, so many parents will mutter among themselves, how could they not have seen it? How could they not have known? But yet most parents of children who commit suicide or who run away don't know, do they?
I might disagree with that. Denial has a lot to do with it. If you are living in an alcoholic home, if your spouse or maybe your boyfriend or girlfriend that lives with you as an adult, okay, has a problem, there's abuse, that is the best sign. Parents will say, what are some of the signs? I say, you know what the best sign is? Do you or your spouse have a drug abuse problem or drinking problem? Are you fighting with your spouse? Is there even verbal abuse going on to your child? That's your #1 sign. Remember, the #1 reason that I've been in touch with why a young person would try to commit suicide or run away is from abuse. And you know, one of the leading causes of death in this country today is teenage suicide, which is mind-boggling.
That is mind-boggling. What are some signs parents should be looking out for?
Isolationism, okay, things they might have been interested in that they're not interested in anymore. Okay, they're done with it. Always detaching themselves from the family. Sometimes they'll be saying it too, I'm out of here, I'm out of here. Out of here can mean a lot of things. It can mean leaving or it can mean killing themselves. Hopelessness, they don't, you know, all those are the biggest signs. But the #1 sign is, I always tell a parent, look in the mirror. Do you have these problems going on in your household? And don't be fooled if your child's doing good in school. My early years, I was not. You need to be a psychologist to figure out I had problems in school. Right. However, I've known some students to be top students who thought about suicide every day. So don't fall into that trap that my son and daughter, well, he or she does good, so they don't need therapy. I already got divorced and they're fine. Bad mistake. At a minimum, they may have problems in relationships when they get older.
Now, with about 10 seconds left, I'm sorry to do this to you, but what gives you hope?
Gives me hope, experience, because I've seen the worst situations get better. If you can just hold on. I've never known anyone who didn't think about suicide, that didn't commit suicide, that wasn't happy they didn't do it. Wow. They're very happy they held on.
So there you go. Very good. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Really great. Make sure to check out the book. I am Ken Rosato. We want to thank you again for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and check out the book Runaway. Thank you.